Hello, I'm Mr. Howard, and this is part 2 of our look at collections in Touch Develop. So this is what we talked about in the first video. The last thing that we need to do is use a loop to print them out with a string using concatenation. So let's look at the code we've created thus far. And so in the last video we created some global variables, a number variable, a sum variable, an average variable, and we initialized all those to 0. We created our number collection here and stored it in a variable called num collection. Then we looped through and created 10 random numbers, so we use that num global variable here to temporarily hold a random number between 50 and 100, and within that same run through the loop we added that random number we just created to our num collection, and so we did that 10 total times, thereby creating a number collection with 10 total random numbers, each of those random numbers being something between and inclusive of 50 to 100. Then we posted that to the wall. Then we looped again, and we looped throughout the entire collection. So we used a loop to process the collection we had created, and we talked about using this count to actually return the value of how many items were in that number collection instead of just hard coding a number here. And then we summed them all up. So we originally had a sum value of 0, so we assigned it the current sum and then added to it the number that was stored at position J in the collection. And remember, J is going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on all the way through the collection. So each time the sum is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it will finally, once the loop is done, it will have summed up all the values. We used our average global variable that was set at 0, and we assigned it the value of the sum of all the values in our number collection divided by all the items in the num collection, which that num collection count gives us, and then we posted it to the wall. So it looks something like this. Just for those that are having a little trouble visualizing what that is doing, I'm going to, each time through the loop, just for a moment, we're going to post that to the wall. So if I run this again, you can see that, and it goes in reverse order. That's just the way Touch Develop does it. So first it's 56, then we add 81, we get 137, then we add 55, we get 192, and so on, all the way until we get our sum of 768 here. So that's what's happening. So I'm going to take that out now that you've seen that. So if you're having some trouble with your code, sometimes you can post each step in the loop doing exactly what I just did, and sometimes that will help. So the last thing that we wanted to do, now that we've summarized everything that we did in the first video, is we want to use a loop to print out all the values in our number collection and add some words to it, and using concatenation. And remember, concatenation is how we combine strings together into a large string. So let's do that. So we'll come down here, I'll add a line of code. So what we want to do is we want to go through our entire number collection, and we want to actually print out each of the values in our collection and concatenate that with some other words. So the first thing we have to understand is that in our number collection we're holding numbers, so we can't concatenate numbers with strings. So we're going to have to first, as we're looping through, we're going to have to turn the values temporarily in our number collection into strings so that we can actually work with that. So we're going to create a for loop to process our entire number collection. So we are going to use from 0 to the total count in our number collection again, so num collection count. So that'll loop through the entire number collection. And then what we want to do is we want to convert the value there to a string. So we're going to make a new variable. It'll be a local variable inside this loop. So we'll say var, I'm going to call it numString, because we want to convert this thing to a string. And what we're going to do is var numString is going to get num collection at position not 0. We want to use our loop control variable, in this case k, and then to string. So we'll temporarily, whatever value, we're going to process the entire number collection. So wherever we're at, we're going to convert that to a string so that we can actually use it. Okay, and then so that we can actually talk about where it's stored at in our number collection, we're going to make another variable. We'll call it location string, because that location's a number too. So let's do k, and we'll do that to string. So k is going to be the location, so it's going to go 0 through 9, because we have 10 total numbers. So that location string, loc string, is going to be a string that we can use to concatenate where it's actually held at. And then we'll go ahead and start printing some words here. So I hit the quotation mark to get my string where I can start typing. So the number at location, I'm going to say this, at index, and then put a space. I'm going to concatenate onto that, so concat is short for that. And I'm going to concat the location string, so I'm just going to type that in here. Actually, I'm going to have to temporarily do this, and then it's actually holding it as a string, so I'll backspace that out, and now I can choose my variable, which is what I want. And then I want to, so now I'm saying the number at index whatever index we're at, and then I want to concatenate some more, so I'm going to go to concat. And so the number at index, let's say 0, and then I'll put a space in there, is, and then a space, and close that, and then I want to concatenate onto that, and you'll see how this looks in a minute, and I may have messed it up, and we'll fix it if I did. So I'm going to just type in temp here because it's making me put something, and then I'll backspace the actual words and I'll use the variable. So I want my numString variable, so numString. Okay, and that looks, concat returns a string. Okay, oh, let's see, is that all good? Oh, loc string, k to string, numString. Okay, overall I think that looks good, so let's run it. Okay, we did not get, oh, I didn't print it to the wall. That's because I need to store this in a variable. Should have known. So we're going to do store in variable, and we'll leave it as s. That's fine. And then I'll add a line of code, and we'll say s post to wall. Now we got it. All right, let's try that. So there we go. And remember, the way Touch Develop works, it does it in reverse order. Notice this is the last bit of code we had, but it's at the bottom. So I could rearrange the order here, but you get the idea. So the number at index 0 is 94, right here. The number at index 1 is 57. The number at index 2 is 54. So on all the way out here to the last one, the number at index 9 is 96. So we accomplished all of our goals, because the last thing that we needed to do in part 2 here was use a loop to print out all the variables and use concatenation to add some words with the values that were stored in our number collection. So let's recap that. So notice I had to convert the location where it was at to a string. I had to convert the actual value that was stored there to a string, so that I could then, in this line right here, actually concatenate it all together. And I want to get rid of that so we can look at it all together. It's a long line of code. So I just called this string s, and then I posted it to the wall. So I concatenated all this together. The number at index with a space. If I didn't put the space there, then it would look funny. And then I concatenated the location string, which it was holding the value, like where it was at in the collection. And then I concatenated is with a space, and then I concatenated the numString, which is holding the specific value that is stored at that position, that index in the collection. So if we run it again, we get different numbers. Run it again, we get different numbers. But we have done everything that we set out to do. We created 10 random numbers, we loaded them in a collection, we calculated the average, we posted that to a wall, and then we printed out every value individually, line by line, that was in the number collection and concatenated some words with it to be a little more descriptive. So again, this was the final product. Alright, that's it for this video. Again, if you want to see the first part, go to part 1. In part 2 here, we just did that last bit where we processed the whole array and printed each value and did some concatenating, which you haven't done before, so that was something new for you today. Alright, again, I'm Mr. Howard. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.